Hello, my friends. Oh, my gentle listeners. Welcome back to another episode of Desire Dialogues. I'm your host, Coach Lauren Goyette, and this is a podcast where we talk a little bit about everything sex, love, relationships, and all those nuances that really go along with it. I have a fun episode for us today. I'm so excited to introduce you to Neno. I met Neno on LinkedIn, and the way we started our conversation was how important it was to actually connect with people, human interaction. So today's episode is going to be surrounding this with a couple of other things thrown in. So enjoy your listening, my friends. Make sure you're driving safe if you're driving, and let's get into it. Hey, Nino.
Hi, how are you?
I am good. Thank you so much for taking the time. Let's touch about human connection. I really want to touch on the importance of that, right? Not just in
Yes.
friendships, but in business relationships and in dating and love. Where have you seen, or how many years do you think it's been where human connection may have taken a back burner?
I think it really pivoted during the pandemic because we had to be isolated. We had to be apart from each other in order to be safe. And, social media probably had a little bit of the initial groundwork that, you know, was set in place where, social media has obviously its major pros. We've had a lot of movement in social stuff happen because of social media, but also it has its cons and it gives us a sense of being connected without actually being connected. And so then the pandemic hit and everybody is like in their fear and completely isolating. Everyone's going remote and stuff. And so I think that was probably the thing that really skyrocketed it. But I think we're coming into a time now where we're really realizing how damaging that isolation is, that disconnection is. While, obviously we need our isolation. As an introvert, I very much need my isolation time. But connection is so vital for our growth as beings. And we're also such like we're pack animals, right? We need each
Mm.
other. And so, I mean, it's, I think, shifting. I think people are becoming aware of it.
I agree. I agree. And so also I wanted to share everybody about Nino. They are a spiritual reader as well. So just want to let you know she's my spiritual advisor. And also they are a ghostwriter. So if anybody needs some help publishing that book that you've been waiting forever to do, Nino has your back.
I
And
also have a little mesh. So, like, if you're a person like me who's like, hey, cool, this is awesome to write a book, but how can we make it more spiritual? I have this combination where I can actually teach you how to channel your book. So, I'm working with a few people on some fiction work with that, which is exciting because I'm generally a nonfiction ghostwriter and book coach. So to kind of come into the intuitive book space with novels is really exciting because I just finished mine. And so now I'm teaching other people how to do that.
I love it. And so this is a thing. Me and Nino, we met. We had a catch up, virtual date, coffee date, and we talked about quite a lot of things. And I was like, you know what, Nino, besides all the amazing things, of course, I might future work with you and write my book that's been in the back of my mind. Besides that, me and Nino touched on dating in this state of disconnect and how
Mhm.
difficult that can be. I think we touched too upon like what sex education was for you growing up a little bit. So maybe we can get
Yeah.
into that. You like those questions?
Oh, yeah. So that's
Yeah.
a huge thing
Yeah.
because I grew up in a small town in the South. I was in Florida,
Mm.
and um, we got like very minimal sex ed, but also none of it covered queer anything. I mean, like my town had more churches than it had Dunkin' Donuts, Starbucks, Target, Walmart, Walgreens, CVS combined. That's how,
Wow.
like, it was a very, very, very religious town. At least it was when I was growing up there. And so it was like, even the sex ed was like, this is what a period is. And that was it,
Wow.
you know? And so, like, the education just really was sorely lacking, as one could expect from, a very religious, very Southern conservative region. Um, and that fed into the overall heteronormativity of
Yes.
culture as we know it. Um, I'm a lesbian. I married
Yes,
a
you
man.
are. Woo woo and proud. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, and it's
And so
June. It's Pride Month.
it is.
Oh, heck yes, Nino. I just put that together. Sorry,
It's
listeners.
almost
So
like we
close.
planned it, but we didn't.
We really didn't. It just hit me. I'm like, yes. Tell me a little bit if you want, it's everybody has a different coming out story and
Mhm.
a realization and like arriving to who you truly are deep down. But especially in a religiously saturated area growing up, lack of education and anything relating to queer as being into a conversation, right? How was that when you were attempting, to figure out who you are with that religious background kinda in your brain a little bit?
I had to take a few steps um, because it was such a deep, deeply rooted fear for me.
Yeah.
So I got engaged to my now ex-husband when I was 20, on my 20th birthday.
Mm.
And around that time, I started to feel um, oh, there's just this more stuff. And then I was in college and I was in a class with this girl and I started having sex dreams about her. and,
Yes.
and I'm like, what is this feeling?
Mm.
What is this? Because when you're growing up, girls are close. Like we hug on to each other. We sleep in the same bed through high school, like we're naturally very intimate. So I'm just like, oh no, I just think she's really pretty. She just is, but never
Yeah.
to
Oh,
the
I
extent,
see.
never to that extent, right?
Ah.
Especially with like the purity culture of everything. Like those thoughts don't even cross my mind. What are you talking about? So I'm 20, I'm engaged, and I'm starting to have feelings for this girl where I'm like literally not even able to speak to her. And I'm like,
Oh.
I've never experienced something this extreme before. And so I was talking to my ex, my partner at the time, and he's like, "Oh, you're just bi." He's British. So
Mm. More open,
this
huh?
is it's he did not grow up in the same environment that I did, even though we kind of like knew each other young, but
Yeah.
like he didn't have it wasn't the same, right? His parents were not very religious, they didn't go to church, they didn't, so he's just like, "Oh, you're just bisexual." I'm like, "Oh, I didn't know it was a real thing." I grew up
Wow.
thinking that it was something girls did for attention.
Interesting. Well, that's the thing. Who taught you that?
Exact with society.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
every
Wow.
every other person. But yeah, so he's just like, "Oh, this just means you're bisexual. It's fine." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, so that's a real thing, and that must be what I am." But I'm about to marry a man, so it doesn't really matter. I don't need to explore this because I've already chosen my path. I've already made my
And
bed and I'm gonna lie in it now. So I got
yeah, but
married.
did that feel did
It felt
you
like a
feel like
piece was missing.
yeah, it's like, "Wow,
But I
oh,
was
there's a
just like,
name for what I am, yet I can't explore it." That sounds a
yeah,
little devastating in a way.
yeah, Yeah, and I mean, like Glee was at the time was my freaking way of connecting with the queer part of myself that I
Yeah.
felt like still had to be hidden. And then from there, um, when I got married, everything like that, our relationship fell apart as things do when you're married to a lesbian. Um, and so when you're a man married to a lesbian, it doesn't tend to work out so well. But things things fell apart. We got divorced, and we separated and stuff. And then I started dating women, and I officially like went on my first date with a woman. And I remember we were in the club and we just started making out in the club, and I'm like, it was the first time I kissed a girl.
Wow. Ooh, I got chills.
And I was just like, oh my God.
This is
And
it.
then
This is what
yeah, and
was
then so
missing.
like I'm dating these different women. At the time I was still identifying as bi, so I'm like still like going on dates with guys, but I'm like,
Ooh,
I don't like that. I don't like that anymore. This is so much better. It's like when you've had vanilla all your life and all of a sudden someone gives you chocolate.
you're like, wow, this
You're
is
just
much
like,
more
oh,
tastier.
yeah. I'm like, not that there's anything like particularly wrong with vanilla,
Yeah,
but chocolate, you know?
absolutely. It's like strawberries or strawberry covered chocolates. Like which one?
Yeah.
Like it's
Yeah,
like
exactly.
it's the love and the attraction, but without the
Yeah.
extraness of acceptance and arriving to, wow, this is it.
Yeah.
I just kissed a woman and wow, now I see what was missing. Oh goodness, I love
Yeah.
that.
And
Sorry, keep going.
then I actually started dating one particular woman. Like we were like actually like girlfriends, kind of dating, not just like one date, two dates that, fizzles out or
Yeah.
whatever. And I was just like, oh my God, is this the way it's supposed to feel? Like, is this the way it's supposed to be? Where it feels like I have a best friend that I just want to fuck all the time? What?
Yes. Yes.
I had no
Wow.
idea. I had no idea because growing up, we're taught to centralize men.
Mhm.
And so we don't even like fully comprehend how we're feeling.
Very true.
And so, all of a sudden, I don't have a man to center in bed. And so I'm like, oh, I feel like I just want to go and get a little uh like those like RVs and just start traveling the world, just her and I, and just explore the world together. Is just like I had this whole like fantasy of
Yeah.
everything, and that was when I'm like, oh, I think I might not be bi.
Yeah, it
And
sounds
that
like
and
a
then
romantasy, not just a fantasy, but a romantasy, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
And that's when, for me, things started to like I really had to come to terms because still when you're identifying as bi, sometimes it's like for me, it was like, okay, well, at least men are still in the equation. And Renee Rapp
Mm.
talks about this same thing because she grew up in the South, I believe, as well, or in a conservative environment as well. And so she talks about the same thing where she had to identify as bi because men were still in the equation, and therefore it was more okay than to be a lesbian. And so then coming to terms, I was like, could like it felt off in my mouth to say lesbian. And so I would say gay or queer. And sometimes queer feels the most right,
Yeah.
but like it's it's not based in the fear of, oh my God, if I say this word, people are gonna know that I don't want to fuck with men at all.
Mm.
And that was really scary. So it was
That
a
sounds
journey.
terrifying. It sounds like it, and I can only imagine, and I can't thank you enough for letting us all kind of just listen into that, and I'm sure this is watered down, and it was terrifying, yet when you say queer now, and you own that now, as I can see with the smile on your face, it's does it feel home and less scary as you're, still moving on your journey?
Yeah, it does. And it's interesting because like you go through these different stages when you first come out and you have the baby gay
Mm.
stage. And that baby gay
Baby
stage
day
is just
stage.
like,
Okay.
yeah, the baby gay stage is like rainbows, rainbows, rainbows. Everyone, guess what? Like you're stepping into the room as a walking rainbow. And that was me because I naturally like rainbows
Yes.
anyways. So, if you see like some of the pictures of me on my website, I have very colorful hair. I'm giving my hair a break, but I always had very, very colorful hair. And so
Yes.
June came along, pride down my scalp. Like it was
Yes.
just like, and so, you go through that phase and then you like settle down and you're just like you come to this like place of calm and acceptance instead of
Mm.
having it be so much because you're like, I'm finally able to express this. So you like explode in expression. It's like all the pressure is built up and now you have the explosion and stuff to now it being like just a calm trickle. It's a calm state of being, which is a really nice place to be.
Well, it sounds peaceful. After a nice explosion, then it's like everything rests a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So if we were to say, okay, you mentioned absolutely no queer education. So I love to talk about education and lack thereof and ask people their opinions on like, okay, have we come far enough when it comes to queer education?
No, because because we in I don't know how deep in the schools, right,
Mm,
they're going with it, but um and I am like so big on education. So my son is 11 and he can name all the body parts. He's actually like really into anatomy and science and things like that anyways, but he understands the diversity of gender, the
yes.
diversity of biological sex, the like even if he doesn't have all of the exact details of
Mm,
all of the layers of things because like obviously it's also it's better to kind of like trickle it out, right?
trickle it out.
There's
Yes,
different things for different stages of life that you need to educate a child
absolutely.
on and
Yeah.
stuff. So like obviously we're not going to like go out the gate, oh, you're 10 years old, here, let's give you all of the information. That's going to be a lot. um and so like if it'll come up in conversation and it'll be something about intersex people, for
Mhm.
example. There's so little education about people who are intersex.
Yes.
And because everyone's like, oh well, you're biologically this or you're biologically that, and they don't realize that there are people who are a blend, there are people who are in between, not to mention people on the gender identification spectrum where there are non-binary people, there are trans people, there are gender fluid people, like there's so much diversity there.
Mhm.
And so children need to know that and need to be educated in that. And
Yeah, the
um,
terminology, the
right.
all-encompassing terminology, and that's it. Like, we don't necessarily need to share judgments and this and that, but I've noticed that, some parents are like, "Oh, this is too much. They're too young for that." But with your trickle through, love that. And as a parent, it is a responsibility.
Hmm.
Education is power, knowledge is power. What they do with that is up to them. But to give them a head start, just to know it's a thing, so that we're just a little less ignorant, I think is just the best gift you can give them.
Right.
And
Honestly.
thank
And
you.
and when it comes to, you know, just the education of just like, yeah, there are men who are attracted to men, there are women who are attracted to women, and there are people who are in between who don't feel like they're man or woman, or who feel like they're both, or who like flow through the spectrum of things. And to just
Yeah.
have that, oh yeah, this person is fill in the blank, and have the, oh well, what's that, and that simple conversation, that to me is sex ed. because that is talking about something that has otherwise been very demonized, right?
Mhm.
Talking about sex in any way, talking about relationships and gender, especially when it comes to the queer community,
Mhm.
it's been so demonized by the church that we feel like we're teaching our kids something dirty if we're telling
Yeah,
them that boys can love boys,
yeah.
because in our mind, gay people equal sex, but straight couple doesn't necessarily equal sex to a child. And
Mm. That
not
is a
even
very
layering
good
it.
that is a very good
Right.
point.
And we see that a lot with book bans because
Mhm.
you can have books in schools, right, that have two moms in the
Yeah.
storybook.
Mhm.
And they're like, why are you sexualizing this? Why are you doing, as if these two moms are literally like scissoring in the freaking storybook. Like, but they're just in a relationship. If one was a man, then it would not have been a thing, right? And
Mhm.
so it all comes down to erasure, really, because they don't want that idea. Because, oh, if you put the idea in their head, it's like, you have the freaking idea in your head, so like, you know you haven't gone, off and slept with, the same sex or whatever. So just like, if you're able to still be
Mm.
straight and know that gay people exist, why isn't your child that? Like, why doesn't
Thank
your child have
you.
that same level of things?
It is it's not a matter of, pushing the idea, because guess what? It's not an idea. It's a fact. It exists, and there are different types of relationships, plain and simple. And it doesn't mean you're coercing into them. And I've heard some of that concern. I'm like, what? And it's here's the thing: we're giving them the education on love and relationships. I never got that, right? What I got was sex education. You know what that was? That was reproductive. That was penis and
Mm-hmm.
vagina, reproductive
Yeah.
abstinence, right? It was abstinence based and it was STD based, okay?
Yeah, and
That
we didn't
is
even learn how to put on a condom.
what?
Like,
Okay. Interesting.
like, it was like, here is the science of it, but we're not going to tell you how to do
Mhm.
any of it.
Yeah,
And
and notice
so,
that they don't exactly, they don't tell you what to do. They tell you what to avoid. It's all scare tactics is what I've
Mhm.
noticed, and it's the smallest piece of the puzzle that doesn't even apply to the people who aren't having P and V heterosexual relationships. It's just the smallest of amount. There is no pleasure ed, and I do understand when it comes to pleasure education, that can come later and with different phases as we mature in the brain, and I get that. But again, no one caught up, right? No one said, "Oh, wait, let me teach this, maybe in your senior year, right? When you're of age, right? Like 18 or 17, or maybe it's an opt-in class. There is no pleasure ed. There is no anatomy about these parts. There is no mention of the clitoris. It's just the vagina, okay? Just the
Yeah.
reproductive canal to get up
Which
there. That's
really,
it.
really gets like, then you can really see
Mm,
that it's not an education about, like, it's not a complete education even in the anatomy aspect of things. And
exactly.
it also gets you to see that, how we still centralize men even in a scientific discussion, because we're only talking about the one part of the area that a man actually cares about.
Amen. I get that, and that's the thing. The fact is the penis is the reproductive, you know what I mean? And it's such a that phallus symbol is still
Mm-hmm.
so all-encompassing and empowering, and it is present in every conversation. So, like, hey, I I get it, and I hear you, and I see you, and thank you for being here today, Nino. Like, this was a fun and really important conversation, and I appreciate your thoughts. And is there anything that you'd like to leave our guests with?
Actually, I think it's go buy a banned book. I think that that is such a great and amazing rebellion that we can do. Buy some banned books, especially ones that talk about us queer people, and And go read it, go give it to a kid if you get a children's book, because there's some, I mean, there's just one about the gay penguins at the zoo, and that one's a banned book, and that's adorable, and it's like for 4-year-olds, you know, and because like this is like to the knowledge is power, right? And
Mm,
the more we know, the more we can fight back
yeah.
wisely and in a way that is not going to completely dysregulate us, and so we can still, because the opposite of war isn't peace, it's creation. That is my
Mm,
saying of the year, and it's so important to stay in that element of creation because that is how we actually create the change. That is
mhm,
how we've grown to this point. It's been because of creation. So we'll
mhm.
support some artists, go buy some banned books. And if anyone is interested in following me, my social media is Neno's Writers Rebellion on TikTok and Instagram. And writersrebellion.com is my website where you can look at book stuff. I also have a YouTube of my um, psychic stuff, which is Gemini Magic Tarot.
And my friends, it is really, really nice to connect with Nino. And it was a human connection, which is how this all started. And I want to end this with when we represent all parties in our society, we leave less room for misrepresentation. Okay. I'm loving that any TV show I see, all parties, okay, all races, all, orientations, all sexuality preferences, they're shown there. And I'm hoping that these continually, help to destigmatize. So everybody's so represented. So you're not so shocked by the fact that they exist. Like, what? We don't need to push it on you, but they're allowed to be represented. And wow, what a good, heavy, and must-needed conversation. Nino, thank you so much for today.
Thank you for having me. This was wonderful.
Fantastic. Happy Pride.
Happy Pride.